All right, everybody. So, why are we looking at the engine in my car? Because we're going to talk about fuel economy. So, a lot of people, when they buy a classic car and with the gas prices the way they are today, they're like, I can't afford to drive this thing every day. And that's true. So, a couple of things. You may be someone like me who only drives seasonally and only here and there. And if that's the case, you go like me, right? Big engine, big power, 4 barrel carburetor, and the works. So, if you are concerned about fuel economy and you want your classic car to be a daily driver, there's a couple of steps you can take to do that, right? So, number one, if you bought a classic car like a Mustang that came with an inline six or a smaller engine than your typical V8, and you want it to be a daily driver and it's not a race car, then keep the inline six. You're going to get better fuel economy, and there's huge support online, right? You go into Facebook and look up inline six Mustang forums, and there's groups with thousands of people who love those inline sixes. So you're going to have a community of people who are like-minded and share the same thoughts, right? The other thing that can really help you is keep your foot off the gas, right? I mean, you try to accelerate too fast and you have a V8 like this, you're going to burn fuel. It's going to be visible. Getting beyond that, right? So there's other things you can do to improve fuel economy if you are willing to keep the Mustang and non-stock, right? So a resto mod. If you're trying to keep the Mustang completely stock and it's a V8, there's very little you're going to be able to do to change the fuel economy. But if you are willing to make some changes to your Mustang or your other classic car, transmission is one of them, right? So this Mustang right here came with a C4 transmission with 3 speeds, right? So when you're going 75 down the highway in this thing, it is pegged out and it is burning a lot of fuel to maintain that speed using a 3-speed transmission. So the first thing I would do to suggest that you could get better fuel economy would be an automatic overdrive or AOD transmission conversion. Another thing you can do is play with the gearing in the rear differential. And there's lots of videos out there on YouTube that show you how to do that. It's really popular to put Ford Explorer rear ends in these things, stuff like that. So I'm not going to get into the details, but that's another option. But now I'm going to kind of show you some of the options that I chose for this specific car, right? So like I said earlier, on my car, I'm really not driving it very much. Here in Arizona, like today, it's 117 degrees. This thing isn't getting driven. So I got the 4-barrel Edelbrock on here, and I'm not that concerned about fuel economy, but I did do some things that would improve fuel economy, that if you wanted to keep an inline 6 or you wanted to keep a 2-barrel carburetor on a V8, this was originally a 2-barrel, so I swapped it over. So that's one of the things you can do. You know, you can buy a new intake manifold, a 2-barrel carburetor. That's going to save you some fuel. But if you want to keep that stuff, the stuff I did that wasn't to save fuel, but to increase engine horsepower and parasitic load and help reduce overheating, but they had the side effect of increasing fuel economy. So if you look down here, you'll see that I have an electric water pump, and you look over here where there used to be a AC compressor and a power steering pump, and there's nothing there anymore, right? So I removed those accessories because I can't drive it when it's hot and the AC made the car overheat. But if you look down here, you'll see that I also don't have a belt that has to turn a water pump anymore, and I also have electric fans right here, so I don't have a fan belt that's having to dry, or a belt that's having to dry fans. The only belt on this car, the only accessory being driven by the engine right now is that alternator, right? So all this stuff, fans, power steering pump, AC compressor, water pump, that the fans also had to turn, that takes horsepower, takes energy. So I got rid of all that stuff, mainly because I wanted a car that would run cooler, but it also improved my fuel economy. So I would say that the other option is way more expensive. Another thing you can do is what's called the 𝐓𝐈, or electronic fuel injection conversion. Those kits are pricey. You could end up paying anywhere from $900 for a cheap one on Amazon that I would not recommend, all the way up to 4, 5, 6 grand for a really good Holley type sniper unit, an Edelbrock unit. Lots of companies make them, but don't go cheap if you're going to go that route, right? Go with a name brand, one that you can trust, one that will support their product after installation. That's a project I would like to do eventually on this car if I can get a sponsor to help me with it, because I can't afford it right now. But I hope this video helped those of you who are considering getting a classic car or currently have one and are wondering about your fuel economy issues. But I would highly recommend the first thing. If you have a smaller engine, keep it. The car that came with that engine, if it came with an inline six, it's going to maintain more of its value if you keep that inline six in it, especially if it's the original engine. But again, thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for subscribing, and have a great one.